second time around, right? So, I don't know. You'd probably bet 60-40 he's back. Does that seem right?
I don't know. I don't know what happens in those meetings. Like, what happens? I would love to be part of it. I'd love to hear how they do. They say it's a process, but what's the criteria they have to meet? What are their goals? Are they on the same page? Do they want the same guys back? You know, and there are some huge question marks around personnel on this team too. And it's not just Dwayne Casey. I mean, the expiring contracts they have a chance to go out and get some big name guys. But a guy like Amir Johnson, do you think, because he's the heart and soul of the locker room, apparently, do you bring Amir back on a smaller deal? There's a ton of question.
Maybe if I was Jerry, the general manager of Toronto Raptors, maybe get some players who can actually guard block shots, not just standing around and letting a team blow right past them. They should be defense. Like, play deep. Guard the ball, block shots, get rebounds, not just standing around and just like.
If you like what you're hearing,
Marks around it, not just Dwayne Casey either.
You say heart and soul of the locker room. Here's Masai talking about Kyle Lowry struggling the second half of the season.
We know who Kyle is. We know what the goods and the bads are. That's the NBA. I think Kyle is determined to get back to where he was. It was a big effect on our team, I think, because we all know that this guy is the engine of our team.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, he made excuses for him too. Did you see that part where he was talking about how Kyle Lowry put the team on his back and carried the team when DeMar went out, and he just ran out of gas at the end of the season? I mean, you know, if he's running out of gas at the end of the season, which I don't necessarily buy, what about the playoffs, which is what we saw? We saw, dude, if that's the case, we saw a guy that either is out of shape or we saw a guy that is mentally drained, and you have 4 more rounds to go in the playoffs. We're at 4 more. Like
I said, I just think this year's Toronto players, they're all soft. They're not. They can shoot the 3. No doubt about it. They were a lot more physical around the hoop, gather rebounds, and stay healthy, because that's the big thing. But they just couldn't get the job done, and that's why Washington, that they capitalize. It's like any other team in any other sport. When you're a team of 10 or 12 players who are healthy, if they're physical around the net, gather rebounds, not just standing around letting the team just blow it right past them, right to the hoop.
You know, you're about 28 games. You got to play an extra 28 games potentially if all games go to 7 games. All series go to 7 games. I don't like that,
and especially how he looked before he went to the All-Star game. Kyle Lowry had his team on his back, especially when DeMar was hurt. The guy was a monster, hitting big shots, but then how undisciplined he was in the playoffs, getting into foul trouble early. His shot just looked gross. It was gross. It didn't look like Kyle Lowry out there, and
you remember when he did struggle. Remember when he last year, start of this year, in trouble. He'd have 2 guys on him, and he'd step back for a 3. And 60 to 70% of the time, you go, it's got a great chance of going in.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season, you're like, there's no way. It's like, you know, like you didn't trust any of those shots as a fan. Watching the game, we had zero confidence that he could make those shots in traffic or not. Even if he was wide open, he couldn't make those shots.
He's like the anti-Steph Curry.
Yeah,
that's what it looked like.
Tough watch. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen in the off season, but we'll see. I trust Masai Ujiri, though. I like how he came across yesterday. Really do you kind of feel like we have the clock's on Shanahan now? Yeah. Do you kind of feel like yesterday the clock is now officially on Masai? I think so. It feels that way, doesn't it? Yeah. I think he was playing on Colangelo's time, really. Right. Well, he's made some.
You look at Masai Ujiri's moves that he made. He drops his broken vocal, and he hasn't really progressed to being a top tier NBA player who hasn't played that much. Jones Valanciunas, yeah, he's a great guy, but he hasn't. I'm not saying he's like. If he was a little more physical around the hoop, gathering rebounds like he's supposed to be, not just there as a stick figure. If I was Masai Ujiri, I would blow up the entire roster, get players who can actually play the game of gather rebounds, shoot three, be physical, like, where's defense, like,
some interesting moves, right? Getting rid. He was preaching patience yesterday. He's been quite patient. He got rid of the Rudy Gay contract. He got rid of Bargnani. He's been clearing house, right? But he hasn't really taken this core and added to it to go forward. And I think that time is now. And because I think we have to see significant improvements at the 3 and 4 spot on this team this offseason. I think that's what we'll see.
You're not confident in Terrence Ross coming back?
Terrence Ross is the worst player in the NBA.
Well,
okay, he's not, but he's the most frustrating Toronto athlete, I think. What are you gonna win with Terrence Ross?
Here's Masai defending some Terrence Ross.
Everybody says, when is Terrence going to get to the line? When is Terrence? Well, you know what? Terrence is a great shooter. He fell back on defense a little bit, but we felt that he started getting it back together.
He is not an excellent shooter.
At one point, he didn't get it back together at all. He regressed. And you're right, he's not. He's one of the most inconsistent shooters. He can hit 5 threes in a game or go 0 for 6.
He makes these unbelievable.
I agree, Terrence Ross is the worst Toronto Raptor in history. I definitely think the addition of Lou Williams, he's been like the lights out, a guy who can drop so many 3-pointers, and that's what he's good for. I think he's like great addition to Toronto Raptors. Terrence Ross, yeah, I think his career has been kind of like a roller coaster. He has those highlight dunks. If I'm Toronto Raptors, I would definitely get rid of Terrence Ross. Probably trade Amir Johnson. I definitely see when it comes to NBA draft this year. I hope they get Jahlil Okafor and get him to like be that top big rebound guy who can get a rebound, throw out a pass to any of the open guys, get a really good 3-point shooter, a really good shot blocker. That's what the Toronto Raptors need to do in the offseason.